I'm zooming into the meeting.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call today's Judicial and Public Safety Committee meeting to order. It is Thursday, October 10th. May I please have roll call?
Gums. Linder.
Linder here.
Roth.
Roth here.
Tepe.
Be remote if allowed.
Williams.
Williams remote if allowed.
Leonard.
Leonard here.
Molina.
Molina present.
You have an in-person quorum.
Okay, we have in-person quorum. I'd like to request remote attendance for Mr. Linder, Mr. Tepe, and Mr. Williams. Any opposition?
No.
Okay, welcome, gentlemen. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I'll entertain consent for approval of minutes for September 12th.
Roth will request unanimous consent.
Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, reports are approved. Public comment, I see no one online or in person for public comment. And our monthly reports are on file. At this point, I don't see. Is Andrea on? Okay, I do see Andrea. At this point, I'd like to request moving up the judiciary and courts up. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, Andrea is in a conference, but she's here for a little bit with us to provide input on this resolution. Andrea?
Good morning. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Morning. I apologize. The Chief Judge, myself, and Jason are at a conference this morning. I want to thank you for accommodating us and allowing me to go first to present our resolution. The resolution we have is for our Child Protection Data Corps grant. Is it okay that I present at this time?
Yes, Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you. So the resolution before you is an authorization to approve our Child Protection Data Corps grant. It's a grant that we get every year from the state. It's in the same amount, $4,150. It goes to work and data collection for our abuse and neglect courtroom. And so we're asking for approval this year for the same amount.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve the resolution?
Roth will make the motion.
Mr.
Leonard
Roth
will
moves,
second.
Mr. Leonard seconds. Okay, any questions or comments for? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Tepe,
Pepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, this passes. Ms. O'Brien, anything else for us today?
No, I once again, thank you for accommodating me and have a good meeting.
Okay, thank you. Have a good conference.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, our Merit Commission report is on file, and we will move on to KingCom.
Good morning.
Morning.
Before I dive into our monthly reports this morning, I would like to introduce our two new telecommunicators. They started last week on Monday. We have Cole Freeland here and Brianna Vasquez. They are joining us, starting the training program, and we're excited to have them on our team. They finished this round of the classroom portion, and they will start training in the communication center tomorrow. So we're thrilled to have them.
Welcome.
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 In addition, some employee recognition. We had 2 anniversaries this week. I will report them next month, but we celebrated them this week. Jim Holden has been with KingCom 23 years as of yesterday. And then also congratulations to Kezia Moore. She has been with KingCom for 5 years on Monday. So we're happy to have them and celebrate their success with KingCom. Additionally, our monthly reports are on file. We are hiring, we are testing again. And we are still advocating for some space, which we will continue to talk about. And you will see in our call for service report, we're trending pretty even for our calls for service in September, but we have quite a few more phone calls, about 1,200 phone calls more. So it says that the incidents that we are handling for the police agencies, we're receiving a lot more phone calls about that. You could have an accident. Everybody has a cell phone, probably get 10 phone calls about that accident. So it's not officer initiated activity this month. It is phone calls where we are seeing the increase. And that's all I have this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Any questions? Ms. Gums?
I just have one quick question. How many vacancies do we have right now?
How many vacancies do we have? Off the top of my head, 4.
4?
I believe
But
that's
we're
correct.
improving.
Yes, we are improving.
Okay.
Yes, we are improving. We have 4. Let me double check that we have some creative hiring with part-time employees as well. We have 2 part-time employees that are helping cover the overtime. Both of our part-time employees have experience. It's very challenging to hire a part-time employee with no experience because training for a full-time employee is 6 to 9 months. So any part-timer we have needs to have experience. So they are also currently helping cover the overtime. And I think it would be very interesting. It's a report we talked about internally running, but I think it would be interesting to run a report last year's overtime compared to this year's overtime, because although we do have vacancies, I am pleased that our collective bargaining agreement that we ratified as a group with the board's approval has significantly improved the scheduling while we try and fill our vacancies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our KingCom director? Okay, we will move on to emergency management.
Good morning. First, I'd like to start off by introducing our new employee. This is Nicole Sprague, sitting to my left. She's our new planner, started about 4 weeks ago. Comes to us from West Illinois University with a master's in emergency management and was most recently working at Lowe's in their corporate emergency or security operations center. So we're really excited to have her, and she's already doing some really good things for us. So.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So beyond that, I just wanted to mention that our volunteer hours are trending much higher this year. So far, with only 10 months in the fiscal year, we have already exceeded what we did last year. So we're at about 11,500 hours, and that's about what we did last year in the entire year. So on pace for about 13 to 14,000. We'll see where we land.
Amazing.
So I have a few items that I wanted to go over, and I made a PowerPoint just to make it easier. The first thing was we had our new volunteer academy graduation last Wednesday, and this is just a photo from that. So we brought in 11 new volunteers that completed the academy. I believe we started with 15, which is a pretty typical drop off. Some people figure out that they can't do the commitment, and somebody else had some health issues, but we finished with 11 and they're excited to start. So we had a nice ceremony and a barbecue dinner last Wednesday. So we're excited to get them rolled in. Other than that, I want to discuss our after action report for the July severe weather.
Okay, I think before we start, Ms. Gums had a question
I
or
do have a
comment?
question. When you referred to the increase in the volunteer hours at 11.5, I can't remember what it was around this time. I thought it was 9 something. Do you still need that part-time coordinator for these volunteers to be a full-time coordinator?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the number of hours, if you break it down by the hours, it comes out to 6 to 7, to the equivalent of 6 to 7 full-time employees.
Right.
So right now we're at 11,500, but likely we're going to finish with somewhere around 13 or 14,000.
Very
So
good.
it's a fairly sizable increase from last year, is what we're trending towards.
I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you.
I think we have that in our budget for next year, so. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Scott, go
All right.
ahead.
So we've completed our after action report. As you know, July 14th, 15th, we had 5 tornadoes in those 2 days. So we do after action reports. The purpose is to summarize major incidents for institutional knowledge, and also to identify strengths to be maintained and built upon, and then also potential areas of improvement. We also receive credit when we turn these in with IEMA for our exercise requirements. So if we the things that we come out of an action report don't necessarily have to be done in it. We have a certain number of exercises we have to do, and this relieves us of some of that requirement. The 32 core capabilities is what FEMA recognizes, and this next slide shows all of them. I'm not gonna, it's a lot, it's a little bit overwhelming, but the ones in the light blue boxes are the ones that we identified in this after action report. A number, those are 32 different things that FEMA recognizes as vital to the risks facing the nation. And these aren't things that necessarily is OEM's responsibility solely. Many of these you can look on there and see some of these things are very clear. The sheriff or other county departments would be primarily responsible, but our responsibility is typically planning and coordination on those types of things. So I just wanted to show that these are the capabilities that are shown in the after action report. So a summary, I reported on these last month. We had 5 tornadoes over the 2 days. EF1s and 0s, which are very low on the scale. The highest is an EF5. So relatively small. And then we tracked the government costs, and they were around $701,000. Our threshold in order to potentially receive federal assistance for that public assistance, just for Kane County is 2.3 million. So we are quite a bit short of that. And I'll get to that in a bit, why that's important. So in this after action report, we classify things as how we did. Performed without challenges is the best. And so the first objective was we established operational coordination for the tornado response. I just mentioned, I'm not going to go into great detail. And then we also provided critical relevant information to the people affected and the surrounding community. So this is after the fact with the communities that were affected in communicating with them. The underlined section is the core capability that weighs in here. And then the page number is the page of the report that you can find that. So this group is performed with some challenges. And one of our challenges was identifying the extent and the path of the tornadoes. So we've identified we need an electronic tool to help analyze that. So everything in the EOC up till now is pretty much manual processes. We receive reports in, say during a tornado or as it passes through, we receive reports of trees down, wires down, poles down, all those things that you would typically expect of tornado damage, but they're going onto lists and it's very difficult to analyze those. And it takes a while to wrap your mind around because you get reports from all over and some of them are just straight line wind damage and some are from a tornado. So trying to figure out what's what is difficult. So we've already been working on a solution to that, and that's working with GIS to build a dashboard that can display that. The next one was completing an initial damage assessment. We need to expand our abilities there. We currently have a tool that we worked on with GPS, but it only can do residential properties, and we're looking to expand that into all properties so that the survey, when they show up at somebody's house to collect data, that it collects all the data that might be needed for the different FEMA programs, such as individual assistance, small business administration, which is the loans, and other programs like that. We also want to be able to collect data that might help streamline things for those affected, such as some people need to have their houses checked to see if it's safe for people to be there. And some people need building permits streamlined. And so we try to avoid having 5 different visits with a homeowner because after a while they start to get upset at how many people are showing up and they don't understand the process. So we want to hopefully try to reduce that and collect everything we need all at once, especially if we can coordinate with the development department. So if they can't be with us, we can at least collect data that will tell them somebody here needs a building permit.
Before you move on, Scott, I think Mr. Roth had a question.
Yes, Scott, on number 3, the need for an electronic tool. Is it a piece of hardware or software or both? And
It's software. And it's the GIS tool that we're working on. It's just not
okay. So it's homegrown. It's not we're purchasing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For that purpose, that's something it's just need to build that capacity to, like I said, we can, after the fact, we can do damage assessment with that tool.
Right.
We're looking to expand that and be able to do the windshield assessment, which is where you drive around and just see where the worst damage is and be able to take photos and upload them. We can take photos now, which we do, and then someone in the field will email them. It just gets very, you get lost in a sea of data and trying to with multiple different emails and multiple photos and things, it gets really hard to not only understand for one person, but also classify. And what do you do with all these photos and information? It's just really hard to manage.
So it's basically a repository that you can go in and see everything. So yeah,
Exactly.
no, it makes perfect sense.
Exactly. So then these are some other ones. So stabilizing critical infrastructure has been a challenge. What we're currently working with some of the township highway districts, and if I had to describe, they're a little bit old school sometimes. Some of them have been in the job for a long time. They're not used to asking for help. They have a pride in handling their business on their own, and they don't know that certain things exist. So we've been, for the past year or a little more than a year, we've been trying to break down those barriers and let them understand there's help for them and it doesn't cost anything. And so we're building those relationships, but we had an issue with one that we found out days later that they didn't have power and they couldn't access their powered gate. So they were unable to get into their facility to get equipment. And so going after the fact, we need to train them to either call us so we can figure out how, because it's important to the residents of the county that township can get their equipment and do what they need to do. And so if they have that, they're out of power, we need them to call us so we can try to find them a solution. But going forward, we need to figure out if we can find grants for them that will potentially give them a generator to keep that from being an issue for them. Another issue we had was with ComEd. We need to communicate with them better. We had an issue where at Granite, on Granite Road, they had a power outage listed as 2 homes without power, but it was actually called in as a pole down over the road, and they didn't get out there for 3 days. And some of that was we lost track of it, and didn't realize how long it had been going on. So we need to be able to communicate with them to figure out not only what's on their list to repair, but also what do they have it listed as? So it was called in correctly, but whoever took down the information didn't take it correctly. And the priority of 2 homes without power is a lower priority than a pull down across and a road closed with potentially people and equipment blocking a road. So if we had seen that list, we would have known to make that phone call and say, this is not just 2 homes without power. This is a fairly sizable county road that's being blocked. So that's just something that's a coordination issue for us. The next one, number 7, is an economic recovery thing. We just need someone to better coordinate post-disaster recovery, which is a major emphasis in emergency management on the national and state level. And it's a big deal to track that, all the data, and work with the state. Those communities that have someone doing that usually are more successful in identifying enough damage to help get them assistance. Now, I'm not here asking for a person to do that. This is a need. And so the solution may be in our staff, but before I could come here and say, I need a person, I need to analyze what my staff hours are going towards. And that's something we're going to be working on in the next year. So again, we need somebody to do this. I'm not here asking for a position to do it, but it's something we need to work on. So then our major challenges, we had trouble with getting the proper information to the right decision makers. And again, because all those things are manual processes, and just to have someone to understand the full situation. So this is where we say we need a data analyst, which is likely somebody on our staff, which is probably our planner, to be able to, as this stuff is coming in with the right electronic tool, to have somebody who knows the full extent of it and then can make plans for the next day or two for how we need to address it. And also sharing with the chairman of the board and municipal partners is a manual process, and which is sometimes unwieldy. It requires somebody to do it and remember to make sure all those people are notified properly. So that's something we need to work on. And then finally, just the last one is mitigation, and trying to, I mentioned it earlier, trying to find those critical infrastructure pieces and figure out what we need to do to make them more resilient. And that's potentially some grants or some things. So someone that can spend time working on that is something that we need to look at. So the bottom line, and if you have questions, feel free to jump in. The bottom line, we've experienced 10 tornadoes in this year and 12 in a little over a year. For the most part, it's all been relatively low damage and no casualties. I call them dress rehearsals because they're giving us information on what we need to do better in order to be better at this. Now, that's not to diminish an individual who might have had major damage on their house, because it is a big deal to them. But as a whole, we've been pretty lucky. So, I think that as these have been, like I said, good learning experiences that have been relatively low impact, but that as we improve these things, a future larger impact storm that might be a much bigger deal, we'll be better at. And that's what we're looking for. So I'll pause there.
Any questions at this point?
Madam
Okay.
Chair Williams.
Mr. Williams, go ahead.
Scott, I want to get back to that Granite Road pole that was down for 3 days. Was that a live wire?
I don't believe it was a live wire. I'd have to check.
Okay.
It was the issue that ComEd had the wrong priority on it. And
So I guess
go ahead.
No, I guess the question that I next have is, what is the communication interface between your office, the sheriff, and KDOT, because I would think between the three of those agencies, in most cases, somebody would have said, "Hey, we got a problem out here," and it would have been handled. And I'm not blaming your department, but it just seems like it just to the crack by a host of departments in the county. The
We're losing you there, Mr. Williams, but I think we got the gist of the question.
I mean, I agree with, I think what your point was. I think we should have had a better handle on that. And that's where our keeping track of these things needs to be better, but also coordinating with ComEd and to be able to actually see their list. And I think that's out there. We just have to get connected because ComEd's a big company. We need to get connected with the right people to be able to access that. And if we saw their list and saw this location and saw low priority, we can then make the right phone calls. And I think that there's some things that we're looking at that can help us manage that better.
Ms. Guthrie, did you have something to add? And then I'll.
I was just going to add, KCAM's role in this process as well. When there's a storm and we get a lot of reports of power lines are down or trees are down or something's down, our team also does a lot of reporting to ComEd. So we may have a citizen that calls and says, their pole is down, and we ask questions like, is it pole to pole? Is it pole to house? And then our team is calling ComEd and reporting that ticket. So as we were talking about the process, I just thought it was important to fill that in too, because we can't determine, excuse me, without checking the data, if this is a call that we actually received, or if this is a call that maybe the citizen reported directly to ComEd. I would think if it was blocking the road, it may have generated a 911 call, but it would just take a little research on that side.
Okay, and then Ms. Gumbs.
Michelle took the words out of my mouth. So just for the function of it, Mr. Williams, is, when there's no way there wasn't a 911 call for that particular issue, right? So I don't want to underplay what our dispatchers are responsible for. So they're the ones initially on the telephone with Commonwealth Edison in their emergency line, and then they prioritize. And then, of course, Scott's team is doing the follow-up, but that initial notification is made by your dispatchers from the 911 center. So it sounds to me like maybe there was I'm not blaming anybody here, but it's, if they did not at ComEd's level prioritize it correctly, that's really on them, not us.
And that's my point, is that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Information is conveyed and someone takes it in and doesn't catch all the important information, and it gets categorized wrong. And my point of how we can be better is we need to follow up. And part of that is we have a limited number of people that work in the EOC. We're working on that, on building that so that we can keep the room active longer and keep a better list of all the places that poles are down and roads are closed and things like that, almost like a status board. And what ends up happening is in the wee hours of the morning, when the bulk of the issues have been dealt with, then the room closes down and it's hard to follow up on that. And I think that as an agency, we can be better at managing those, and we can be better at coordinating with ComEd. And that's what we're working on that.
Mr. Williams, did you have another question?
No, thank you. That was a good response.
Okay. And Mr. Roth.
Scott, I think your report was good because it shows constant improvement and stuff. And especially between our departments, like Mr. Williams asked, we need to make sure that we're as perfect as we can be. You're never going to be perfect, but as long as you learn from your lessons.
Well, strive to be perfect and be very good.
I'm an IT guy and I was trained in processes, so I can do that stuff in my sleep. So.
And I think it's really important that the county board as a whole is understanding of the process, because if we get calls for things, if, Mr. Williams would have gotten a call, then we would know what the process is and we would know who to contact to get to what the update is. So I think it's important that us as a whole, as a county board, understand that when these emergencies happen, everybody has a role to play and identify what those roles are. So that might be a larger conversation for us to have, but I think it's really important. We're looking at the data of what's happening in our county, what's happening in the state and in the country as a whole, these emergencies are going to continue to happen and they're going to continue to impact our citizens. So the more information we have, the more we can give to the public. And we just have to keep working at it. So.
Yeah, so we're working on some solutions and I'm not prepared to come to the board with it yet, but I think there are some things that we can do and we can implement. Because one of those issues, like you just mentioned, was for you all, the 24 board members and any other decision makers in the county may need to know some of the information going on, especially in your districts. I understand the importance of that. So I think something that we can provide to you all that is almost like a dashboard that you could see. It may not be that I'm sending it to you, maybe something you can just, when you have a question, you can start there and find the information you're looking for. And if you don't find what you're looking for, then you can contact somebody. But if we can provide that, that would, I think, answer a lot of questions and then maybe direct questions to the right person if needed.
I'm going to let Ms. Gums go and then Mr. Roth go, and then we're going to wrap it up because I think this is part of a larger conversation that we're going to have with Scott
Yeah,
at a later date.
I'll keep it really short, but playing off what Scott said is there like a text notification, like a group text to electeds, board members, parties involved? I know we do that for different police and fire issues, and other municipalities do that as well. I mean, that would be, as opposed to a dashboard. Yes, we could have a dashboard, but it would be great for me if I had an emergency in my district for me to have, then I won't have to call you because you're busy. Your team is busy. And I can get the gist of it. So that's just something maybe we can talk about offline.
There are some solutions to that, and there are some solutions that integrate with the data too. So that's something we're looking at, and hopefully we'll have some information for you about that soon.
Mr. Roth?
That was basically my same response. And I've done that where you have a CAN distribution list, both email and text. So you don't have to decide who do I send it to. Send it to everyone. If someone complains about getting something that's not in their district, too bad, because it's critical we get it out ASAP.
Okay.
Scott,
All right. So I real quick, I just wanted to, I told you last month that we got new furniture. So I just wanted to show you some quick pictures. This is our EOC before and after, so that we put monitors up. So instead of projectors, we're now using TVs connected to computers, and there's more of them and relatively low cost for some TVs from Costco. This is the communications room. We took some of the old furniture and added it there to give more workstations. So on the left, this was the best picture I could find, was during a tour. But we've added some workstations there for when the communications room is active. And then this is the old desks in administration. The one on the right was like a 30-year-old desk that moved from the old building, the old sheriff's office when we were there. And the other one was a CaneCom desk before they got new furniture. And I think once it got moved, it was so old that once it got taken apart, it couldn't probably be put back together. And then this is the desks now that they all match, and they have more storage, and then that's my office. I failed to get a picture of the before, but it was about half the space. So we're trying to improve the workspace, and as we improve the work, we're also trying to improve the space that we're working in. So, and the last thing I wanted to just really show you, it's included in your packets. You can read it if you want to read about 30 pages of a credentialing plan. I don't necessarily recommend it, but this is something we had to do for FEMA in order to stay eligible for grants and to keep our accreditation. So it's a personnel credentialing system. And essentially what we have to do is have a system for credentialing our people to work in an EOC. And the date has passed and we have submitted everything, but we have policies and procedures in place that how people are credentialed, and then position task books are issued to the required personnel. And we've started very basic as an EOC generalist, and then down the line we'll add more positions. So we're crawling before we can walk, because none of this has been written down. None of it is institutionalized, but we're working on that. So as we move forward, we will divide these into the positions that they need to be in a full operating EOC. And that's all I have. Sorry that was long, but I wanted to explain what that is and why, why we're doing it and why I gave you that plan, just to show you something that we had to do.
Thank you, Scott. No, I think it's part of a larger plan. Like you said, once we're ready to present something bigger, we should have a conversation with the full, maybe the full board, to talk about what our strategies are going forward to make it easier for us.
A very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then there is a resolution you have. This did pass administration already. It's on our agenda, so
Yes.
I'll just go ahead and entertain a motion in a second to discuss authorizing the vehicle purchase.
Gums will move.
Roth was second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Gums, second by Mr. Roth. Any comments or questions on this? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Tepe,
Pepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Passes.
Okay, this passes on to executive. Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, we'll move on to our sheriff. I see Sheriff Hayne online.
Yep, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Relatively light month for the sheriff's office, so I figured I'd just zoom this one for the sake of time. All of our typical reports are on file. And one thing I have to put on everyone's radar, over the last 2 days, we have relocated 100 detainees from the Kane County Jail to LaSalle County and McHenry County. The reason for this is, and the reason why we had to keep it very quiet until the moves were done, is really for security purposes. Number one, we don't want information out there to other people that could spread that there's going to be a mass detainee movement. The reason why we did this, and this is a temporary move, we're consolidating all of our population down to one of the 2 towers right now. One of the reasons is to expedite the closing phases of our jail camera project that has taken way too long to get completed. So we're finally on the cusp of that being done. And also our union has expressed concerns about officer mandations. So this is the time of year coming into the close of the fiscal year where everybody's using their benefit time. So a lot of younger officers are getting mandated for 16-hour shifts, multiple days a week. So out of sensitivity for that, we felt it was a good opportunity to kind of quell that while we get the camera project done and use our partners in McHenry and LaSalle to do this. And this is kind of a concept I've talked about repeatedly, that it's a good idea to share jail space and kind of boutique your jail out, much like we're housing all the Kendall County women in our facility, and they're getting all of our programming, which is unique. Now we're just housing about 100 men in those other 2 facilities, hopefully not longer than 2 months until we can get through all of this. But I just wanted that to be on your radar. I know the media has picked up on it from some source and had asked questions. But if anybody has any questions for me about this move, by all means, feel free.
Thank you, Sheriff Hayne. Any questions for the sheriff at this point? Okay, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
And we will go on to our coroner. Coroner Russell, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to let you, my reports are on file. Our numbers are trending a little bit down, which is good, right? Good all the way around for everybody, including our budget. So that's a good thing. We are really, really hopeful we're going to be under budget this year. We're trying really hard to do that. So hopefully the call volume will cooperate with us and we'll get that done. Also wanted to talk about some of our efforts over the last 6 months. Over the last 6 months, we've been at over 50 events across Kane County. Me and I have Vicky Foley, who is my new community person, outreach person, and she was hired by a grant from the health department. So very, very important to have her out there. Like I said, 1,500 boxes of Narcan have been distributed from my office alone. That does not include what the health department has done, or any of the other police agencies, or sheriff's office, or anything. And we do have several confirmed saves from our boxes that we have distributed. So that's good. That's a very good thing. And the overall response that I've been getting from the citizens is just a very thankful that we're out there. Most people wouldn't think, oh, geez, the coroner's office is here. Goodbye. See you later. Have a nice day. But no, most people have come up and just been very thankful. Several people were able to get some boxes of Narcan for their children as they went to school. So a great time to do that. They were able to take it, to their different university or college, wherever they were going. But it is just very encouraging to know that our efforts have actually saved some lives. It's a good thing. The last thing I want to talk about is the skull in Batavia. In 2 weeks, we are going to be having a press conference. We know who this person is. And we have a very good idea as far as the backstory. We don't know exactly. We don't have exact facts, but through process of elimination, we know we have a pretty good idea how she got into the wall in Batavia. So that we will be doing we've been waiting on all of our experts for drawings and all kinds of stuff because we wanted to do it right. And we wanted to get the remaining family here for the press conference and just wanted to talk about that. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to discuss unless we have questions.
Thank you, Coroner Russell. I see Ms. Lewis online with a question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This question is actually not for the coroner, it was for the sheriff. So if you could just take it down and ask him, because I know he's left, but good morning, Coroner Russell, and thank you for the amazing job you do as a side note. But could you find out from the sheriff of these 100 men detainees that we have moved to McHenry and LaSalle for 2 months, what's the cost of that to the county? Because obviously we'll be paying money for them, and I would hope that a little of it will be offset by not needing as much overtime, but I was just curious what the total cost will be on that project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lewis. We'll get that to you. I know we have an intergovernmental agreement with each of those counties, so off the top of my head, I can't remember per day, but we'll ask
Yeah, I was
Sheriff
just
Payne to get
curious.
that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Sorry, I didn't see your hand up until now.
No, it's fine.
And then, Mr. Russell, I did have a kind of a question for you. I know we've talked about this before with the health department about the fentanyl test strips. Do you have any input on what it would take for us to be able to provide that, if that's something that you've seen kind of in your area, in your discipline, that is being offered to residents?
It is mostly through the advocacy groups, through like Lighthouse Recovery and several of those. And we actually do have some at the coroner's office, and we do offer it to people as we're out there. So yeah, it is, they are getting distributed. We've actually made sure, we had to really make sure we had the Narcan available, because that's the one that really is a priority. Not that the fentanyl strips aren't, but definitely the Narcan is the priority. So yeah, I wanted real quick, I also wanted to mention the McHenry County coroner will be renovating his facility. So we may be having some, we're gonna have to work on an intergovernmental agreement, and we'll have some revenue coming in, which is good.
Thank you, Coroner Russell. Any other questions for our coroner? Okay, thank you for being here. Okay, we will move on to our state's attorney. I have Mr. John Frank online and Mr. Terry Hunt representing Ms. Mosser.
Thank you. Good morning. The reports are on file. Jamie regretfully cannot make it today. If you have questions, finance, obviously I'll refer those over to Terry. Obviously we do have a resolution for today. The resolution is authorizing the annual participation in the appellate prosecutor. The gist of this is that the appellate prosecutor will take on cases that we might be conflicted out of. They also do other actions throughout the state on behalf of the larger group of prosecutors. So it's a standard fee. We do it every year. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to take them. But with that, I will turn it over for questions, or if Terry would like to add anything.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and you introduced that resolution. May I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially
We'll
approve?
make the
Williams
motion.
moves.
Mr. Williams moves, Mr. Roth seconds.
It's fine.
Okay, any questions or comments regarding this resolution? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Gums,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Tepe,
Debbie, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, a resolution passes on to executive committee. Any questions for the state's attorney's office regarding their monthly report or anything else? Okay, so we will move on. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody.
Our public defender.
Good morning. Our reports are on file. We just have a little bit of good news this month. We have 2 interns that we had hired and pending their bar results. They both passed the bar in October, so they will be sworn in November as attorneys in our office. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Good news. Any questions for our public defender? Okay, so we will move on to court services.
Good morning. I'm Mike Davis. I'm sitting in for Lisa Oss today. She apologizes for not being here. She's at the same conference as the court administrators and Chief Judge Villa for the northern jurisdictions this morning. Our reports are on file and I do have a resolution today.
Okay, Mr. Davis, do you want to go ahead and introduce that one?
So back in July, we asked, we contract with Family Counseling Service of Aurora. We contract with them to provide mental health, specifically psychiatric care and medication management for our detained youth. We also have a contract with Family Counseling Service to provide support for our staff members. After we were here in July, shortly after we were here in July and the extension was approved, Family Counseling Service was told by their insurance provider that they were going to have a significant increase due to the work they do in detention and jail settings. I can only assume it's due to all of the negative media attention regarding juvenile detention in the state and all of the lawsuits that have been filed recently. Family Counseling Service has done a great job for us. We have a good relationship with them. They're in the community to continue to contract with us. They are going to require a rate increase of $13,717, which is going to go directly to pay for their insurance coverage. It's something we should keep an eye on. I'm hopeful that everybody doesn't raise their rates accordingly who does business with juvenile detention, but that's where we're at currently. As I said in the past, there are very few psychiatrists in the state, let alone the area, who do this sort of work with juveniles in detention. And with the number of kids we have in our building with serious mental health issues, it is something we need to continue to provide for them. So we are asking for an additional $13,717. We already have it in our budget. We're not asking for any additional funds. We will be able to cover it. We've already sent this through the Civil Division and they approved it as long as the board approved. So we're asking you to approve this resolution today.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve the resolution?
About to make a motion, you can give it to Council.
Ms. Gums moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Any comments or questions regarding this particular resolution? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Gums,
Yes.
Linder, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Tepe,
That'd be yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, this passes on to finance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davies. Okay, we'll move on to our circuit clerk.
Good morning, everyone. My report is on file. I have a little cold, so I sound a little stuffy. I was just at a conference in Arizona with Tyler, and they discussed something that I've been talking about on and off with you folks, and that is that SAS, I don't know if I discussed this before, but SAS is basically our case management system in the cloud. And a lot of counties are going to that. It's very costly, but I think down the road, we will probably end up having no choice because that is what everything is going to. So I was glad to be at the conference with Charles and discuss it so that the county can start working on a plan going forward. I know we all talk about no money. That's the big theme here in King County, but there's a couple of things that I think you need to put on your radar. And one is down the road, maybe, 3-4 years, we might end up having no choice but to go to SAS. And that is in the cloud. And what happens is we would not need our IT folks basically for working on our case management system. That would relieve them up to working on mainly elections, which is where that's going, correct? And it is very costly, but Charles and I are working with them right now to determine what it will cost down the road and what we have to look at. The other thing is the federal labor laws they passed, I believe, in July. They changed the starting salary for exempt employees. I believe it's for agencies or departments that have union staff. And then this would be the non-union staff. And we're working currently with the civil division at the state's attorney's office to get all the information on that to determine what our budgets are going to look like. But I would ask all of you to take a look at that. I have spoken to HR here, and I don't believe they have all the details. And that's why I'm working with the state's attorney's office to determine how it would affect our exempt employees. It is very large and it would really affect the county budget. So we're looking at that. It does go into effect on January 1st. Of course, like everything else we get at the last minute, right? I do want to mention that our case filings are trending 11% higher than last year, which is what we had anticipated. And if we continue at this pace, new case filings for the circuit clerk's office will be over 65,000 for 2024. I also would like to mention that we are down again 3 clerks, but that's okay because we've had several applicants, so we're looking at those, but we are still down 3 clerks. We have a total of 98 employees currently. The rest, of course, are non-exempt position. Exempt positions, which I don't even keep track of because my main priority is deputy clerks because we have to have clerks to fill the courtrooms and to do all the statistical reporting that comes in that we have to report to the state on. And that's actually all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Gums?
Thank you very much for that. If you have time in November, we're having our legislative meeting in November.
Okay.
A lot of things that are legislative issues that affect the county. I would really, again, implore folks to come to legislative so that we can disseminate that to everybody who's, budgeting.
Right. I know there's a lot of legislation regarding expungements and specialty courts, but I'm not sure if they have pulled that back or not. But the governor signed every bill that went through. So I know Lisa Ost and our team are working on all that legislation that pertains to the circuit clerk and the courts. So.
Thank you.
And Ms. Barrow, just to go back on your the SaaS cloud-based system, we have the Fund 127 that's specific for
yes,
technology.
I've asked about that, which I would imagine would pay for that. So we need to keep, and we do have a meeting this afternoon with Judge Braca, and I'm going to bring that up. I'm sure Charles will also, but yeah, we really need to, my fear is the employees that are in that fund, because that fund is basically for the case management system. So that might be a discussion later on. If anybody would like to attend, I would encourage it. But that's what those funds are for, the case management system.
Okay, any other questions for our circuit clerk? Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on. Any old business committee would like to bring up?
No.
Any new business?
No.
Okay, may I have consent to place reports on file?
Roth would request we do unanimous approval of putting the reports on file.
Any objection? Okay, we'll place reports on file. We have no need for executive session. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Roth will make the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Roth moves.
Gumsel second.
Ms. Gum seconds. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.